Yo, welcome to Hard Pass. I am your host, Jacques Slade. It's the show that is not impressed with this robot that can shoot. Boring. Wake me up when he can catch and shoot in 0.4 seconds like Derek Fisher did. Never letting that go, Spurs fans. You're used to it by now, right? I mean, they have to be, right? Yeah. All right. Let's start some things off with Kyrie and Nike beefing. Wait, what? Yeah, so could this be the end of Nike and Kyrie Irving's partnership? This past week, a noted Kyrie sneaker fan account called @K11Kicks posted photos of a supposed unfinished Nike Kyrie 8. It did not look great, but then again, when has leaked photos of unreleased sneakers ever shown them in a positive light? Since the beginning of time, or at least when 90% of sneaker media and fan accounts began to rely exclusively on leaks for their news content, we have been harshly judging these pre-release shots before the shoes are even in our hands and on our feet, and it's been ruining our fun. We are so quick to call a pair of shoes that we have yet to see in person trash, and this supposed Nike Kyrie 8 was no exception. It is something that we have talked about on the show before, but while we can't deny the value of leaks and how they can sometimes lead to last-minute changes for the better if there are features that are so irredeemable that the brand has no choice but to change them, oftentimes it's just an opportunity to dunk on something that didn't really deserve it. However, apparently, someone who was very much invested in the Nike Kyrie 8 decided to not only dunk on the alleged pair, but to light the whole operation on fire. And that someone was Kyrie Irving himself. In a reply to the post, Kyrie said, "I have nothing to do with the design or marketing of the upcoming #Kyrie 8. In my opinion, these are trash. I have absolutely nothing to do with them. Nike plans to release it without my okay, regardless of what I say, so I apologize in advance to all my sneakerheads and true supporters of the #KAI11 brand." Man, those are some fighting words, Uncle Drew. Now, you could be forgiven for thinking this could have been someone who hacked Kyrie's account, or maybe this is some wild marketing strategy considering the source and the comment would be deleted. But no, as of this recording, it is still up and live and easy to screenshot and save for posterity. So we can safely assume that the comment is legitimate and Kyrie, or someone who has access to his account and is very intimately familiar with his thinking, is unhappy with his upcoming signature shoe. What does this mean in the grand scheme of things? Let's break it down into 3 different camps: the Kyrie side, the Nike side, and, of course, the co-writer side. Okay, let's start with the man himself. Kyrie Irving has been one of the most interesting and genuine dudes in the NBA ever since he stepped foot on the court as a #1 overall draft pick. His dazzling display of dribbling artistry and clever shot making have made him a favorite among the kids. You won't have to search too far to find young fans who tried to imitate his many moves as if they were combinations in a fighting game. It could start with the jab step and then a few behind the back dribbles, followed by a spin move and then another spin move, and finally a layup with enough contortions you would think he was in politics. Yes, there's beauty in the vicious Giannis dunk or the hot hand of Steph Curry from beyond the arc, but damn, if Kyrie don't make this look pretty and easy, and well, pretty easy when he does his best imitation of NBA Street in the real NBA. He really is the evolution of his godfather, Rod Strickland, former NBA player and one of the most slept-on talents the league has ever seen. Just look at a highlight reel of Rod in action and you'll see where Kyrie got a lot of his moves from and turned them into VMAX moves. I don't actually know what that last part meant, but co-writer's been making bank on Pokemon cards lately, so I'm not going to fight it. Anyways, Kyrie is more than a basketball prodigy turned multiple All-Star and Team USA gold medalist and NBA champion. His creativity with the ball has dazzled fans the world over. His charisma has made him a star of many instantly classic commercials and even his own feature film. His social awareness and philanthropy has become as much of a part of his brand as his championship-clinching shot in the Game 7 of the 2016 NBA Finals. At the same time, he has become one of the most controversial figures in the game because of his ability to piss off the establishment. Whether it's demanding a trade out of Cleveland, finessing his way into Brooklyn with Kevin Durant, taking multiple breaks this past season due to undisclosed personal reasons, or trying to start a player uprising last year by refusing to participate in the Orlando bubble, Kyrie has never been shy about doing what he feels is best for Kyrie and those in his orbit. And when he has that kind of power and influence over an entire generation behind him and looks damn good doing it, it's kind of hard to argue with the results. Okay, it's easy if you're an ESPN or Fox Sports talking head or someone with a Twitter account to argue with Kyrie's methods. What am I saying? Oh yeah. And there was the whole flat earth thing. Bet Uncle Drew would love to take that one back, at least for the sake of having less headaches with the public. All of this is to say, when Kyrie says something, it speaks volumes. Now, whether that volume is all the way up and garbled and kind of messy, or toned down and it's passionate and thoughtful, is up to your interpretation. As somebody who has interviewed Kyrie a number of times, particularly when a signature shoe of his is about to drop, he can give you info dumps that break down the Kyrie shoe to its most minute detail in a way that nobody has been able to do since the late Kobe Bryant, someone who Kyrie greatly admired. At the same time, no one can paint a more vivid tapestry of words to describe a sneaker like Irving and leave you wondering what the hell he just said. So when he says rather bluntly that the Kyrie 8 is trash, we have to listen. Kyrie's signature shoe run is like the boyhood dream come true. You can feel it in the way that he talks about his kicks, that Kyrie was like his mentor Kobe and that he was obsessed with making his sneakers the best and most personal it could be. So to hear that the Kyrie 8 is not that is rather shocking. Will this news greatly affect the fans who love Kyrie and are invested in him and not necessarily Nike? Will the lack of a stamp of approval from the person whose name is on the shoe matter in the short term and in the long term if Irving refuses to wear them this upcoming season? Could this be the beginning of the end of Nike and Kyrie? So here's the other side. Sneaker brands are no stranger to signature athletes who are unhappy with their signature shoes. It happens more often than we think because typically any creative differences or general indifference goes down behind closed doors. It just happened earlier this year with Vanessa Bryant when she found out about the now canceled release of the Mambacita Nike Kobe 6 that she helped design and didn't own pairs for herself and her kids. Remember when LeBron James refused to wear the Nike LeBron 11? How could something like that happen on a product that is supposed to be the flagship of Nike basketball? You did not hear LeBron himself call the shoes trash. In fact, he said that Nike was looking out for his best interest and that they would redefine the shoes for him during the season. It never happened, and LeBron would end up mostly wearing the Zoom LeBron 7 Soulja that year. But the news eventually petered out because LeBron did not go the scorched earth tactic of leaving an incendiary Instagram reply. During the early 2000s, Kobe bought out his Adidas contract because he was frustrated with the direction of his signature shoe line. Just one look at the Kobe 2 and you could understand Mamba's position. Michael Jordan, he wanted to leave Nike after Air Jordan 2, and it took the greatness of Tinker Hatfield and a lot of convincing from his parents to keep him in the fold. 3 all-timers, 3 major problems with their signature shoes. Not to break out with the sneaker hot takes here, but if Jordan, Kobe, and LeBron are the top 3 in terms of basketball signature shoes, and Penny Hardaway and Allen Iverson round out the top 5, who has the resume to take up the number 6 spot and maybe even make it to the top 5 someday? It's probably Kyrie, right? I mean, it could be the depth of the KD line, but I think Kyrie's first 7 signature shoes make a valid case. So why mess with something that Kyrie Irving doesn't approve of? Because the Nike train or the Adidas train or any other train doesn't stop for anybody, even the athlete they're supposed to represent. Because neither Kyrie nor Nike has issued a statement beyond the initial IG comment as of this recording, let's speculate on what might have happened. In the sneaker world, especially one that is currently dealing with a pandemic that is messing up supply chain and production schedules, it's possible that Nike and Kyrie were not on the same page when coming up with the Kyrie 8. Nike might have been working on the initial plans for the Kyrie 8 during the initial months of the pandemic when the world was shut down. Maybe it was difficult to pin down Kyrie for a Zoom meeting where they could discuss the design and marketing of the shoe. Basic things that would normally happen in person. Irving was focused on the social justice movement that was happening in light of the murders of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and more. Reportedly, going as far as to say he was willing to give up everything for that cause and encouraging other players in the league to at least consider the potential harmful effects of playing in the bubble and what that could do to the movement. Sneakers may have been the last thing on Irving's mind at the moment, and honestly, that's understandable. But it's also easy to understand that Irving or not, Nike has to push on with their work on the Kyrie 8. Meanwhile, Irving is probably getting updates and not liking what he's hearing. When the two sides are finally able to get together, Kyrie is likely not happy with what's going on with the shoe that bears his name. But because Nike has to have everything in place by a certain date, they have finalized everything in order to get the shoe out in time for the 21-22 NBA season. Well, at the very least, you know Kyrie cares about his sneakers. There are other signature shoes out there, and you wonder how much input and care they put into something that bears their name. Like, How can we go from something that had such a very cool debut and an awesome sequel to right now, where even multicolor pairs or a collab with the hottest brand at the moment can't move the needle? I mean, who does that? Anyway, whether it's a heated back and forth between the two parties or lack of understanding or interest, the result is now a Kyrie 8 that could be the lamest duck of lame duck signature shoes. So what's next? Well, there's this angle. Co-writer's take on the whole situation is, think of it as a third eye. This could all be a bizarre marketing campaign cooked up by Nike and Kyrie to get people talking about the shoe. What's the first sign? Leaving the hashtag Kyrie8 in the comment for starters. Like, why leave that hashtag that people can search for easily if you're trying to metaphorically bury the shoe? Maybe calling the shoe trash is actually a hint that the Kyrie 8 is an environmentally aware shoe and is made using the same processes as the Space Hippie line. It wouldn't necessarily explain the rest of the comment where Irving says he has no say in the shoe and that it's being released without his approval, but it could all be a ploy to throw us off the scent. This could be a heat check moment for Nike where they truly see the value of the swoosh. Like, it's totally possible that even though Kyrie does not approve of the shoe, it could still be a bestseller for the brand. Kyrie fans could be divided in two, with one side following Irving's lead and not approving of the shoe and refusing to give money to Nike for it, and the other side that doesn't care or is not aware of the controversy and just buys them because it's two familiar brands, Nike and Kyrie. This could also be the catalyst that leads Kyrie to move on to other sneaker endeavors, such as starting his own brand. Now that I would be interested to see. Free of what I don't doubt are restrictions over at Nike as to what he can and can't do on a sneaker, a Kyrie brand where he has no filter and no one to tell him otherwise would be amazing to watch from afar. Based on the few conversations we've had through the years, I think an unchecked Kyrie, both literally and figuratively, could make for the most interesting signature shoe in years or the most bizarre. I feel like it could go either way when it comes to Kyrie. Will it sell in huge numbers? Sure, but it won't be Nike numbers, because the swoosh lives rent-free in our heads. Actually, that's not true. We pay Nike to live in our heads by suffering through sneakers app content we don't care to watch or making memes about the L's we take. Regardless, Nike's brand is so strong and so important to Kyrie and KD and LeBron's brand that breaking away from that, while interesting on a philosophical level, will likely not translate to monster sales numbers. And finally, co-writer's wildest theory on what's going on here is that Kyrie is headed to Adidas. Why? Again, it comes down to the third eye. Gotta look beyond the surface and dig deeper, man. Like, so deep you go past the weird center of the earth part in Godzilla vs. Kong and end up in Hong Kong to fight Mech Godzilla. Anyways, the other hashtag that Kyrie left in that comment was about a hashtag KAI11 brand. Like, a quick Google search will just lead back to the comment and you don't have to scroll too deep to find the KAI11 is not a real thing for now. But look at the hashtag again. K as in Kyrie, A as in his sister Asia, I as in Irving, and 11 as in his jersey number in Boston and Brooklyn. I and the double ones. Could that be a clever way of signaling his interest in Adidas? Are those actually 3 stripes? Whoa. That's like a Kyrie layup with enough backspin on the ball that Phil Mickelson would think he's too fancy with it. Kyrie moving to the 3 stripes would be their biggest signing since James Harden, and it could be an even bigger deal if we're going by fan support. And can you imagine what galaxy brain Kanye and Kyrie could come up with? The sneakers could look like a brain and fans would eat it up, no doubt. So yeah, you heard it here first from co-writer. Kyrie is going to Adidas. Or something. So many things can happen between now and the shoe's actual release and when Kyrie gets back on the court. It's possible Kyrie never actually wears the shoes and just sticks with the Kyrie 7s. It's also in play that this is a long, drawn-out divorce that eventually leads to Kyrie moving on to signing with Adidas, which I can't see happening, or signing on with a Chinese brand and building up his base overseas with the hope that it can someday reach stateside like Dwayne Wade has done with Li Ning. Of course, there's also the possibility that Kyrie's account was hacked and this is all a big misunderstanding and everything is cool with Nike and Kyrie. I don't know why I feel this way, but I think everything being cool is the least likely scenario. We could be in for a very long, interesting ride with Uncle Drew and Nike. This next year, or maybe the next. It's the Heat Check, where we bring you everything that's dropping this week. It's a rather quiet week as we get past the Olympic-themed drops and start thinking about the fall season. I wonder if those production delays are starting to rear their heads and it's going to be slim pickings at least for a few months. I guess we'll all have to see. Let's start things off with some Dunks and some Yeezys that I'm sure will not be delayed at all. We have the Adidas Yeezy Foam Runner Aqua on August 2nd. That's going to be for $80. And then we have the women's Nike Dunk Disrupt Low Barely Rose on the 3rd for $110. And now for some sneakers that we are pretty confident will actually release. The Jordan Zion 1 Pelicans on the 4th for $120. Zion's debut signature caught a lot of people by surprise, but this sequel might be short-lived if those rumors about him leaving the Pelicans have any validity to it. Sure, I declared myself a fan of the small market Milwaukee for doing it the right way, but I gotta say, the moment I hear the Lakers are interested, I will pack Kuzma and KCP's bag to get out of here. Women's Nike Air Max 2021 on the 5th for $160. Wait, these didn't come out during Air Max Day? All right. Those were pre-day Air Maxes. Anyways, the latest and greatest from the Air Max line continues with this new iteration that features a combo synthetic and mesh upper, a new Air Max unit, and a hollowed out foam midsole. We have the Levi's New Balance 992 on the 6th for $250. This shades of gray denim pair is the latest in the Levi's and New Balance partnership, and before I freaked out about the price tag, the Made in USA tag in the back helped justify it for me. Will I buy a pair? Most likely not, but I wouldn't be mad at being sent a pair to unbox. We have the Nike Kyrie 7 Copa on the 8th for $130. We've already talked quite a bit about Kyrie in this week's show, but this pair of Kyrie 7s is unique in that it features Nike grind on the swoosh and TPU fingers, showing that it is possible to use these sustainable techniques on the top of the line performance basketball shoes. And then my pick of the week is the Pharrell Adidas NMD Hue 20th anniversary on the 6th for $220. Celebrating the release of NERD's debut album, this very cool and very clean pair of the NMD Hue would look right at home with the NERD look from that time frame with trucker hats, vintage band t-shirts, and Adidas tracksuits. All right, and now for a heat check on Donda, the 10th studio album from Kanye West. Wait, what's that? You haven't heard it? Oh, guess it's just me, Kevin Durant, and Justin LeBoy. No idea who you are, Justin? I'm sure you're a big deal with 3.9 million followers on Instagram. Damn. Anyways, you do you and post some real pictures on your feed. We all have Notes app. It's not that special. Anyways, I'm just kidding. I haven't heard Donda, and neither did anyone who attended that thing they called a listening party at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. Whether it's in a football stadium that has a Chick-fil-A, a Sunday service in Coachella, a ranch in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, or a packed Madison Square Garden, Kanye for the past several years has made it a point to make a spectacle of his album releases. And most of the time, the album isn't even done. Remember I'ma Fix Wolves? With maybe the exception of The Life of Pablo, which had wolves, none of these albums by the new Kanye has lived up to the stunt. So this is less of a heat check on Donda the album and more on the annoying ass ways Kanye previews his album. Remember when Jesus is King dropped and we actually said on the show that it was a comeback album for him? Well, guess what? We haven't really listened to it since the album dropped, and the same goes for Ye and The Life of Pablo and Yeezus. Really, if Father Stretch My Hands had not randomly come back into our lives a few weeks ago when somebody put it on top of a Drew Holiday still and Giannis alley-oop clip from the NBA Finals, I wouldn't be able to tell you the last time I heard anything by Kanye that came out in the 2010s. 2000s? That's easy. Amazing. From 808s and Heartbreak was on shuffle during my last run, and I have to say that I have a newfound appreciation for Jeezy after that random listen. Anyways, I'm just checked out of the whole new Kanye album hype cycle. I mean, there's the masks, which is cool because I'm all about mask wearing, vaccinated or not. But then there was the Nike socks that he posted, the live stream of the listening party that I could barely be bothered to watch, and the shocking news that the album wouldn't be available to stream anywhere even though it was supposed to drop the same day as the listening party. Who could have seen that coming? Kanye's not done? I feel like that song Late on Late Registration is actually Kanye's favorite, and he just took that to heart. No, Ye, just once. Work on an album, don't tell anybody, don't hype it up, and certainly don't rent out a football stadium to have people listen to an unfinished album. Just drop a tweet and a link and go work on Yeezys. I give Donda an incomplete because, duh, I haven't listened to it yet. But I give Kanye's album rollout nonsense 3 push-ups for foam runners out of $10 for a bootleg pair at Walmart. It's time for this week's Hard Pass, where we take a look at something in the culture that just needs to go. Like people trying to take down Simone Biles. Look, I will admit it. When I first heard about Biles withdrawing from the team competition and then later on the individual all-around, my initial reaction was that I hoped her physical injury wasn't so bad. When I subsequently found out she was withdrawing because of mental health reasons, I was more inquisitive. Like, Why did she quit? I respect her decision because at the end of the day, nobody knows her like she knows her. And if she feels like she's not capable of performing at the level needed to win, then good on her for knowing when to step down. I wish we treated these kinds of things like when, smart players in poker fold instead of doing something stupid and losing all of their money. But I wanted to understand why Biles getting the twisties is different from getting the yips, like when a golfer is not able to hit a ball or Ben Simmons is not able to shoot. Like, for those things, we make jokes about them and even break out with the C word, choke. It's because when a gymnast gets the twisties, they lose their sense of place. They don't have a count on how many times they've spun around, and they might land on something they don't want to land on. That's way different than shanking on a golf course. That's life-threatening. And with the moves Biles was performing, that's even more dangerous. Yo, that's some scary shit. And if the GOAT is feeling that, I don't blame her for stepping down. My feeling is that it's okay to feel disappointment because Biles was coming into these games to add to her resume as the greatest to ever do it. But at the same time, in her calculus, the risk was not worth the reward, and good on her to recognize that, and we should respect that. And as it turns out, that opened the door for the next generation to take center stage, as her team would win the silver in the team competition, and Suni Lee, someone who beat Biles during the trials, would take the gold in the individual. I feel like in a different time, we would have questioned why Biles even decided to join the team in the first place. But considering she was also doing it for past teammates who endured abuse from Larry Nassar and neglect and mistreatment from American Olympic officials, she's given this country way more than enough. She doesn't owe us anything. We can still make pandemic pee jokes though. Those aren't gonna stop. Anyways, so this week's hard pass goes to Soulja Boy. Oh, tell him, Jacques. Look, there's no doubt that Soulja Boy was one of the recognizable figures in pop culture during the mid to late 2000s. His breakout hit Crank That is one of the most watched videos on YouTube with nearly 500 million views. Don't tell anybody, but there is video evidence of Co-Writer, the real one, doing the dance with his nephews. And when I tell you, I have never seen something so ungraceful and uncoordinated in my life, I'm not lying. You know that part in Empire Strikes Back when the AT-ATs are just, moving? That's Co-Writer. But anyway, for the last several years, Soulja Boy made more headlines for his hot takes and selling of bootleg video game consoles. Like, he really thought he could buy bootleg Chinese consoles, literally slap a sticker on them and resell them for even more money and act like he did something groundbreaking and not something illegal as hell. He even has an entry in the Crappy Games Wiki. Do you know how trash things have to be to make it into the Crappy Games Wiki? And now he's got an opinion about a beloved brand that is raising the eyebrows of sneakerheads all around the world. During a recent episode of Sneaker Shopping, Soulja Boy and host Joe LaPuma were talking about a bathing ape, the popular Japanese fashion brand founded by Nigo back in 1993. According to Soulja Boy, he was the one that put the brand on the map. Seems like something we can easily prove or disprove right away with a quick Google search.
12 seconds later.
According to Wikipedia, Nigo's a bathing ape brand, or Bape as it's more commonly known, is an ironic reference to its customer base who love hype and opulence. Sounds like Nigo was way ahead of his time with that one. We're all just bathing apes. In reality. In the 90s, Nigo would produce a limited number of Bape shirts to sell and also to give to his friends to promote the brand. One of those people who could have accelerated Bape's ascension was the notorious B.I.G., someone who was way more relevant than Soulja Boy at the time. Well, then, now, and really forever. According to History VLT IG account, in 1996, Biggie was scheduled to do a photo shoot when he saw photographer Sean Mortenson's Bape camo jacket. Biggie was such a fan that he wanted to be pictured wearing it. Draped over his shoulder, the picture would become an iconic image and also a sadly tragic one. Once Nigo heard that Biggie was a fan, he had custom one-of-one pieces made for Biggie. But before they could get to him, he had been tragically murdered. Their rise in American pop culture would be delayed by just a few years. In 2002, Bape would release the Bapestas, the sneaker that would really change the trajectory of the iconic Nike Air Force One. During an era when everybody not named Rasheed Wallace were off Air Force Ones, the Bapestas would create a major buzz because they were willing to go where Nike wouldn't. Pastel colors, patent leather, camo patterns, and kaleidoscopic releases that seem normal today were no-nos in Nike's book. Combine that with their ultra-rare production runs and you had proto-hype beasts chasing after them. The Bapestas' popularity would actually force Nike to change up their strategy and open the color palette for the Air Force One. Not bad for what's essentially an Air Force One knockoff. Bapestas and Bape gear would be on the feet of popular artists like Pharrell, who along with Nigo would form their own popular brand, Billionaire Boys Club and Ice Cream. And there was Kanye, Daft Punk, Lil Wayne, and our man Soulja Boy. Yep, Soulja Boy was definitely rocking Bape camo hoodies and Bapesters during that era, and considering how high up the mountain he was at the time, he no doubt influenced a lot of kids and budding hypebeasts with his fashion choices, but to say that he was the one who made it hot in these streets? Nah, not even close. Anyway, that's going to do it for the show. I want to thank you guys for watching Hard Pass. I am Jacques Slade. I'll see you next week, but not before I remind you that it's never this serious.
I said, I'm not working. I'm getting paid good money. Yeah. But I just looked at him, I said,
Like two things. Go barefoot or just say you want to wear heels. No one cares, and now you've got people wondering if you got fake Yeezys. Hope it was worth it, kids. And spoiler, it's not. It never is. I'll see you next week. Peace.